The purpose of studying the mysteries is to unlock a direct and personal experience with one's own creative power. This is why we study the mysteries, and this is what we refer to as really a way to enhance quality of life, because our quality of life can be directly related to the amount of creative power that we are using in our everyday lives. Now, our relationship to our creative power is mediated through our awareness. The amount of awareness, the level or um, really volume of awareness that we have of our creative power is going to directly translate to the quality of the life that we are living. Because as our awareness of our creative power increases, our ability to consciously create the life that we desire to live also increases. And this is what the mysteries are all about. When we talk about the mysteries, we are talking about the mystery of what is the phenomena that creates our experience of reality. What actually is it that creates the experience that we seem to be having as we move about through our day, through our night, through really all of our states of consciousness, through all of our various states of awareness? What is that phenomena that is creating the experience that we are having? And here in this space, as well as the mystery schools of the ancient past, we believe that it is our own consciousness that is creating our reality. It is our own consciousness and our own awareness of reality that is creating the reality that we are experiencing. And so, therefore, studying the mysteries gives us access to really the cause of the reality that we are experiencing, which gives us access to choose a different sort of reality to experience, a reality that perhaps we desire to experience. And this is the mystery. This is why we study the mysteries, to learn how to activate extraordinary creative power in our experience. In the last episode of Sunday Mystery School, we talked about extraordinary use of creative power as being one of the definitions for genius. One of the definitions for the word genius is an extraordinary use of creative power. An extraordinary use. Well, an extraordinary use of creative power would also be an intentional use of creative power. And we can use our creative power with intention when we begin to understand how that creative power works. That's what this space is all about. This space is all about learning how our creative power works so that we can become very proficient operators of that creative power. Neville refers to each and every one of us as being the operant power of our reality, the operant power. Specifically, it is our consciousness that is the operant power. It is our awareness of being that is the operant power of our reality, meaning that we would not be experiencing any reality at all if we were not aware of being. It is the awareness of being that is the key that enters and unlocks the door of having an experience of reality. So as our awareness increases, our ability to consciously and intentionally use our creative power increases. And as our ability to consciously use our creative power increases, we have the ability to unlock an extraordinary amount of potential for our lives, which you could even call genius. So, really, the purpose of studying the mysteries is to unlock this creative power, to unlock this genius and use it to enhance our quality of life. And we are not alone in this. This is actually what many of the most notable figures in history have done. Those who, when we look back in history and we see the people who really made these very tremendous, notable, long-standing, they passed the test of time accomplishments or contributions to collective humanity, many of them were trained in the mysteries. They actively studied, how do I unlock an extraordinary use of creative power? How do I unlock my own genius? And then how do I use that to advance the collective experience of humanity? Now, we are living in a very dynamic time. In the liquid modernity of now, there are a lot of things that are changing. And because that which is on the outside mirrors what is on the inside, we are experiencing change both in so-called external reality, but it is driven by the change that we are experiencing in internal reality. So as we are unlocking our creative powers, we are unlocking an extraordinary use of creative power, as we are unlocking our genius, we're also noticing circumstances in the external world changing as well. And we are moving into an era where those who are able to apply their genius are going to excel. They are going to really experience and live a very empowered life. And those who do not really invest the time to really understand the mysteries, understand what it is that creates reality, are going to experience challenges, because this is a time in our broader human society that requires all of us to rise to the moment. And part of rising to the moment is unlocking our genius. It is necessary for us to reach and really begin to embody and live into this next era of humankind. We must unlock our creative power. We must begin to really embrace an extraordinary use of our creative power and really begin to embrace our genius, particularly the genius that is uniquely human. This really is a unique thing for human beings, the ability to use imagination to create reality. You will not find a synthetic being that can do this. This is really a human trait. This is a human characteristic to really be the operant power of consciousness in this way. It is uniquely human. And we're entering an era where we really need to lean into and embrace the qualities of being that are uniquely human, and to celebrate them and to venerate them. And I can't think of a better way to celebrate and venerate what it means to be human than to actively develop our creative power, to actively develop and embrace our genius. And that's exactly what we're doing week after week here in this space of Sunday Mystery School. Sunday Mystery School is a way to study the mysteries, to really engage with our genius in a fresh and unique way, inspired by the teachings of the famous mystic Neville Goddard. Now, we are in episode 35 of Sunday Mystery School, and we've had many episodes going in detail over the teachings that really begin to illuminate what our creative power is, where it can be found, and how to consciously engage with it. And now we're at the portion of the teaching where we're really getting into questions from the community so that we can really engage with these ideas and make them as practical as possible. And so today I have selected a couple of questions from the many, many questions that came in during the time when the forum was open. I've selected a couple of questions that we're going to get into that will further illuminate the mysteries. And the intention is to also make our engagement with these ideas more practical, more enhancing of our lifestyle, more enhancing of our quality of life, by making them very applicable on the day-to-day. That's really the goal here. It's to take these ideas out of the realm of the merely theoretical or the merely intellectual, and really make them practical. And so we do that both in the way that we talk about the ideas, we explore them together to do that, but really, that's how we do it socially. But really, there's also an individual aspect to making these teachings practical. And that individual aspect is the homework that we have every single week. And that homework is very, very straightforward. It is to practice what you learn in these spaces, to practice going into the silence and being educated from the truth, the one primary source of truth that can really only be found in the silence, to go into the silence and to learn from that source of truth. And then also to practice using your imagination to create your desired state of being. Okay, so to imagine that you are the person that you desire to be, that you are living the life that you desire to be living, and to really fill your being, fill your cup, fill your imagination, fill your state, fill your mind, your heart, your emotional body, your spiritual body, to fill all of these things with the feeling of being the person that you desire to be. This is a powerful practice. This idea of filling ourselves up with the qualities of being the person that we desire to be. And it is through doing this that we begin to make that state of being of the ideal, right? The ideal person that we desire to be while we are embodied physically in a human body of flesh, while we are living a human life on a planet Earth. Really, we have the opportunity to really align with the ideal. So we're aware of, hey, I would like to be this person. How do I become this person? Well, I begin to imagine that I am this person. And over time, as I do it consistently, I start to become that person because I'm constantly filling my imagination with the qualities of being associated with that ideal state. And over time, that state becomes more and more natural. We begin to feel and know that we actually are the person that we desire to be. And in any initial gap that there was at first, perhaps there's a certain quality of character that you would like to have because you feel like in the past you have not properly expressed it. Maybe the question is one of authenticity. Be like, oh, sometimes I pretend to be somebody that I'm not just to gain the approval of others. And maybe that's not a quality that I really want to embody going forward in my life. So let me begin to imagine that I am truly authentic to the nature of my own being, and that I don't change for anyone. I am very authentic and integral and faithful to myself in that way. So the more that you fill your heart, your mind, your experience, your awareness with this feeling of authenticity, the more natural it'll begin to feel, the more natural it'll become for you to be that ideal state. And over time, as you align with this state, as it becomes natural for you, you'll begin to naturally express these qualities of character. And you will see that your whole world will begin to respond to you differently because you are acting different, you are being different, you are thinking different, your habits and patterns of thoughts and behaviors are different. And so, therefore, the entire world is now changing because the world is reflecting back to you your state of being. So, as your state of being changes, the world changes, your relationships change, your circumstances change, the opportunities that arrive for you to engage with, right? The invitations that arrive for you also change. And this is the mystery, right? And this is what we call the mysteries, this idea of how when we change, the world changes, and how there really is the opportunity to pilot those changes on purpose, intentionally, so that we can change the world intentionally, right? So this is the mysteries, and this is exactly what we gather in this space to study and develop and become better at week after week after week. We're going to continue today with questions from the Sunday Mystery School community. But first, I would like to take this opportunity to speak conscious words of blessing over everyone who is gathered here today, those who are watching live, those who are listening to the recording, anyone who is aware of the sound of my voice. I am speaking these conscious words of blessing over our group, understanding that our words have power, and these words are really chosen intentionally to speak the ideal over all conscious beings. I turn now to go within, drawing my senses inward into the center of my own being. I offer gratitude and appreciation in this moment for the perfection that is this present moment. In gratitude, we accept that we are, and we declare that we are wise souls, growing healthy, youthful minds. Thank you that we are feeling now the presence of life force energy, awakening, enlivening, making whole our bodies in the physical dimension. Thank you that our relationships are now healed with love, compassion, and understanding. Thank you that we have humbly accepted our power and our responsibility to imagine wisely as sovereign co-creators of the world we share. Thank you that we are inspired by life-expanding, consciousness-uplifting possibilities manifesting now. We honor the ancestors who have walked this path ahead of us. Thank you for the wisdom passed down from the ancients, woven into the fabric of reality all around us, and the spirit of liberating our hearts and our minds. And thank you that together we welcome the inheritance of our bright and beautiful future. And so it is. Okay, so our first question for today from a member of the community who did not share their name. So this is an anonymous question. And the question reads like this. Even after assuming my desired reality in a state akin to sleep and experiencing the fullness of it, which Neville described as cubic reality of the state desired, I wake up feeling like there is still more that I need to do in order to manifest my desire faster. Why can't I simply trust my imagination? Okay, so there's layers to this question. I'm going to call a few of them out here. Okay, so the first thing, getting into it here, assuming my desired reality in a state akin to sleep. So just as a very quick reminder for those of you who are maybe new to Sunday Mystery School, state akin to sleep is a very specific brainwave state of consciousness. It is referred to in varying places as the hypnagogic state. That's how the scientists talk about it. It's also the alpha theta cusp brainwave state. It's right on the edge of falling asleep, where your body is essentially asleep, but your mind is still awake. So you could call that mind awake, body asleep. And it is a specific state of awareness where you have full and unfettered access to the subconscious mind. And so the subconscious mind is really where our state of being lives. Okay, so we clothe ourselves in a state of being using our subconscious mind, and then we really just operate in our daily reality being this state of being. And if we want to change the state that we're in, really we need to change it in our subconscious mind. So this particular brainwave state is a state of awareness that we can access to change our state of being. So the basic idea here is that you access the subconscious mind and you create a scene. You imagine that you are having an experience that you would only be having were you the person that you desire to be. And when you do this to a sufficient level of vividness, that scene becomes cubic. And so Neville used the word cubic, living where we are in the modernity today. We could probably describe it as essentially, it feels like you're living it in VR. It becomes a virtual reality. You know that your body is on the bed, like you're laying down in a state akin to sleep, but your imagination is completely plugged in and vividly living a scene, and it feels real. It has sensory vividness. You actually feel like you're there. So that's what cubic reality means. You actually feel like you're there. It becomes 3D. You're not thinking of it. You're actually experiencing it. It's not just a daydream. You're actually there and you're doing whatever it is that you're doing in this scene. Okay. So this person here, this person asking the question says, I do all of that. And then when I come back, I wake up feeling like there's still more that I need to do in order to manifest my desire faster. Okay, so let's talk about that last word there, faster. Okay. If you are truly living in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, there is no faster. Okay. Let's just be very clear about that. If you are truly living in the state of the wish fulfilled, you are feeling that it is real now. So there is no gap. There is no, oh, it hasn't happened yet. Right? You're experiencing it in the now. You're living as that person. Okay. So whether or not it has clothed itself in flesh is irrelevant. Meaning whether or not, okay, so we need to give this an example to make it more relatable. Okay, so let's say dream job. Let's say you're manifesting your dream job. And so you go into your imagination and you're putting yourself in your dream company, dream office, having a conversation with, this person that works for this company that you've looked up to for a long time and consider them a mentor. So you're really excited to be working with them. And so in your imagination, you go into this office and you're having this conversation with them. Okay. And it's cubic and it feels real. And you're very excited about the state of the state desired and the feeling of the wish fulfilled of being in that state. And then you come back and you're like, oh, I need to get there faster. Okay. If you feel like you need to get there faster, then that you're not truly in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, because it would be like, oh, the wish is not fulfilled. I need to make it fulfilled. Okay. So even worded right into the question is the answer. Okay. So there is no faster. It's now becomes what we call, or what Neville calls, appointed hour. Okay. So now you know that, to use Neville's approach to this, he described it as being pregnant. Okay. So you become pregnant, which is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You become pregnant knowing that when you give birth, that's going to be the scene actually happening in waking 3D reality. Okay. So you know that it's coming, you're pregnant with it, and you're really simply now just waiting for the appointed hour when you will encounter, on a bridge of incidents, that event coming true. Okay. So if you're trying to make it happen faster, you're trying to rush a pregnancy. And we all know that pregnancies that are rushed don't work very well. Okay. So you want to let it cook, right? Let it cook while relaxing in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That's the idea here. Let it cook. You don't want an undercooked meal. You don't want a premature baby. You want it to arrive at the perfect time in the perfect way. Okay. So your goal is not to make it happen faster. Your goal is to make it feel natural and then understand that it'll happen naturally. Okay. So why the final sentence here that this person wrote is, why can't I simply trust my imagination? Well, you cannot, apparently, it would seem you're having trouble trusting your imagination because you're trying to make it happen faster, which means you don't truly believe that it is done. Because if you truly believed that all of the ingredients were assembled in the dish and now it's just cooking, you're waiting for it to be done baking, right? You wouldn't be trying to rush that process. If you truly believed that you were pregnant and you were going to give birth to a healthy baby, you would not be trying to rush that process. Okay. So in part, why can't I simply trust my imagination? Well, you haven't built the belief. Okay. That's what it comes down to. You have not built the belief and you have not made it natural. Okay. So how do we do this? How do we solve this? How do we make it natural? How do we build the belief? Okay. Couple of things. One, as we've talked about many times, you need to create a personal body of evidence, okay? A personal log of evidence. Consider that you are a scientist and you are studying the creative power of imagination. you would take notes about your experiments, right? So anytime that you consciously manifest something, and I'm talking about small, big, anything in between, your goal is to log it, to write it down. Okay. Now, what this does over time is it trains you to look for success. And as we know, because we are living in a consciousness reality is consciousness. What we look for, we will find. What we look for, we will see. Okay. So by actively setting the intention and acting on the intention of writing down, you are actively looking for success. You are actively looking for the evidence in the 3D of the state that you have assumed in the 4D. Okay. And by doing this, you begin to entrain your awareness to look for what you want to see. And what you look for, you will see. That's the basic idea here. So, first answer, how do I build belief? How do I learn to trust my imagination? You need to create a log. And that log should include even just simple, silly things. Okay. So, a big part of this comes down to building awareness of what am I thinking about? What am I imagining? Okay. The goal, when you are ready to graduate from mystery school, which is in a falsehood, we never graduate from mystery school. It becomes a way of life. Okay. But I'm just using it as an example. Okay. So, like when you reach that master level, you will be 100% aware of every imaginal act that you create all day and all night. Your awareness will be so lit, you will be aware and observe yourself every time you cast an image using your imagination. Every time. Every image your imagination casts, you will be aware of. Okay. Now, many of us are not there yet. Okay. Many of us have not awakened our awareness to the level where we have that amount of clarity of self perception. Many of us have what Neville describes as a vegetable memory. Why a vegetable memory? Because vegetables decay. Okay. So many of us have a vegetable memory, and that's normal. It's natural. It's part of human life, part of human experience. And also, we have the opportunity to awaken a more advanced experience here, which is basically to cease the decaying of the memory of our imaginal acts and to become aware. Okay. So as we awaken that awareness, we become more conscious of the acts that we are casting. And even Neville said in his lectures, he said, look, even I, having practiced this for 40 years, am not at the point where I am 100% able to control all of my acts of imagination. Getting closer, right? It's a path, okay? Getting closer, but I'm not 100% there. Even Neville, right? So even in that master state of Jesus Christ, which Neville embodied beautifully, still not 100% there. Okay. So he says, my own failures would convict me were I to tell you that I had this mastered. Okay. So the goal is to move in that direction without an attachment to getting it perfect, because the whole point here is to learn and to grow. Okay. So you want to make your imagination, the acts that you are doing in your imagination, more and more conscious. And so as you lift them to a level of consciousness, you can more and more choose what you're imagining. Okay. So, for example, you're somewhere in the intermediate part of this path and you're walking down the street and you just see someone and they don't say anything to you. There's nothing remarkable about them, but immediately you imagine that they're a certain type of person. And let's say that it's not necessarily a positive thing. Okay. If you can catch that imaginal act, that judgment immediately, you can recast it. Okay. So in that case, catching it is the first step. Recasting it is the second step. Some of us don't even catch it yet. Okay. So the first step is to catch it. Oh, I just imagined something about this person, which is a casting. Okay. It's like a spell, casting something, putting a projection on them, casting outward. Okay. I just imagined something about this person. You have to catch that. I just did an imaginal act. I made them a certain way in my consciousness. Okay. So you have to catch that first and say, oh, I just did that. And then the second step is to say, okay, let me revise the judgment and instead see the God in them. Okay. The whole reason why we are learning to catch our imaginal acts is so that we can begin to relate what emerges in our field of reality to what we have done on the inside. For some people, this is a complete mystery. They're like, I have no idea where the things that happen in my life come from. I have no idea what creates the circumstances. Okay. All of it is imagination. The difference is, do you see it or do you not see it? Do you catch it in the moment or does it completely go over your head and you're not even aware of what you're doing in your creative power, which is your imagination, the same power that creates the entire universe? Okay, that is your creative power. You are the operant power of that. You have to learn to see what you are doing, which is also akin to waking up, right? So when we're sleeping, our dreams seem to just be happening. Okay, we seem to not have control over them. Okay, because they're just like we're at the mercy of the storyline. But when we wake up, now we have the ability to actively choose. Okay, so lucid dreaming, you wake up within the dream, you can change the dream. You can dream anything. Okay, same thing here. When you start to catch that imaginal act, catch that voice, that image, that power that is projecting in your awareness and in your imagination, you can begin to change it. But the most important thing is to become aware of it, because then you can start to see all of your successes. Okay, this is something that I've been really growing in recently. So I have become more and more aware of my imaginal acts just on a day-to-day basis. And so when stuff happens, at this point, pretty much right away, I'm like, I did that and I can remember when I did that. I can remember the thought that I had. I can remember the imaginal act that I cast. And then it comes back to me at the appointed hour. Okay. So what does this do? This helps me fill my logbook with manifestations because I'm now aware. So everything that we're manifesting is coming from our imagination. It's just whether or not our memory of doing that act decayed like a vegetable, or whether we are aware of it and we're able to catch it. Okay. So you're saying, why can't I simply trust my imagination? Well, the point of being able to trust your imagination is to remember what you're doing in your imagination so that you can see the fruits of your imagination, so that you can begin to build faith in your imagination, so that you can begin to choose how you're using your genius. The other part of this question to illuminate here is I wake up feeling like there is still more that I need to do. Okay, so if you feel like there's still more that you need to do, that what it is that you need to do is to make the state more natural. Okay, so that's really, it comes down to mental diet. That's really what it comes down to. So if you are the person that you desire to be, your mental diet should reflect that. So you need to start thinking as that person. You need to start living your life as that person. That's what there is that is more to do. Okay, is to fully make that state natural. Okay, so this, famously, Neville is like, oh, there's no action required. Okay, so what he means by that is you don't have to go out into the outside world, in the external, and force people to help you or force circumstances to move in your favor. But the action that is required is choosing to be the person that you desire to be. That's the action you have to take. And so that might look like choosing to think a certain way. Thinking is an action. Having a thought, projecting a thought, doing imaginal act, all of this is an action. Okay. Making your mental diet align with the naturalness of the state desired. That's an action that you're taking. It's not in the external. You're not forcing circumstances. You're not rearranging surfaces, as Neville says. You're changing your own self. And there's no one to change but self. Okay. So thank you for that question. That's beautiful and illuminating. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that because there's some important wisdom there for all of us who are on this path to gain the benefit of. Okay. So let's look at the second question here. Okay. The second question is from the same anonymous student, and it reads like this. Every time I enter my desired state, it begins with me first being in a drowsy state akin to sleep. But somehow I get so involved in the feeling of the reality of it that I wake up instead of falling asleep. It seems like I can never fully fall asleep while imagining my fulfilled desire. Is it necessary that I fall asleep as I am imagining? Okay, so clearly this is a student who is doing the work, and I commend that because that's the homework. The whole point of doing this is to be not hearers of the word, but doers. Okay, not here's the word only, right? We do need to hear the word, but we also need to do the word. Okay, so this student is clearly doing it. So I commend that. That's awesome that you're doing it, and it seems like regularly. Is it necessary to fall asleep? It is not necessary. Neville says this. I'm saying this. It is not necessary to fall asleep as you're imagining. Is there a benefit to falling asleep? I mean, it's intangible. Yes and no. I'll give you an example. So I was in a state akin to sleep, and I was in my dream house, an actual physical house. And I did fall asleep while I was walking through this dream house and experiencing the furnishings, which is something that Neville teaches us to do, is we're making a dwelling place natural, our natural abode. And so I was walking through and I was enjoying all the furnishings, and I did fall asleep. And what happened was I became lucid in the dream, and I was still in the house. And so lucid dreaming inside of this dream house, and I then becoming aware that I was lucid dreaming. It's just kind of cool how I slipped off into the deep and actually fell asleep, but kept the lucidity, which can take practice to do that. I mean, there's trainings that you can take to help build this type of lucidity, but for many of us, it does take practice. I just kind of stumbled into it in this particular example that I'm giving you. This was a while ago. So I just became lucid, and I was literally there. So it became even more cubic than my imagination because it was like it took on a full dreamscape. And so I decided to throw a party. And so in my lucid dreaming state, I literally invited all of my family and friends, knowing that I was dreaming and that I was experiencing a lucid dream in my dream house. I was like, well, what a perfect opportunity to do this. And it was really cool. And it was very fun. Okay. It was entertaining. But again, this is the same student that is asking, how do I make this happen faster? Okay. So it's not about making it happen faster. It's just about experiencing it on different levels. Okay. But it is not necessary, and it's not going to make it any more real for you other than just, like I said, being able to explore it in a lucid dream. That could be fun and entertaining, and it could help you feel that it's more natural because now you feel like you've been there in a fresh way. Okay, cool. But it isn't necessary. Okay. The difference between success and failure is not whether or not you fall asleep in state akin to sleep while imagining your desire. Difference between success and failure is whether or not you are able to make the state natural. That's straight Neville. That's exactly what he says. The difference between success and failure is, can you make the state natural? Thinking from, not of, from. I am the person that I desire to be, and now I'm looking at life through those eyes. Now I am that person, and this now is my life. Okay? So I've gotten this question a lot over the years. A lot of people are like, hey, I get into state akin to sleep and I start running my scene and I get so excited because my heart is on fire, because I'm so passionate about my possibility, about the ability to live the life of my dreams. And so there's this flood of emotion, this rush of emotion. I get so excited. And if anything, it begins to stimulate and wake me up and makes it hard to fall asleep. That's fine. That's fine. Passion is a good thing. I do think that eventually you graduate out of passion into a deeper feeling of naturalness, meaning that the passion can still be there, but it won't be quite such an acute emotional experience. It'll be quite normal and natural. Think about someone who buys a new car. Okay. So while, they park the car in the garage the first time and they're super excited. Maybe they're going in like, every few minutes they're opening the garage door and looking at it and like, oh, it's such a cute, like such a beautiful car. Like, oh, I'm so glad I have this car. They close the door, right? Come back, do it again. Oh, it's such a cool car. Close, But a month later, they're not still doing that. Now it's just natural. Okay. So they're still excited about the car, but it's in a different way. It's become natural, right? So the whole idea is that as you really become familiar with the state, it doesn't feel as new as it did when you first started dreaming into it as a possibility for your life. It starts to become more natural. You just like, I just am this person. And so now when you go into sats and you're doing an imaginal act, it's not because you're changing something, you're just experiencing other aspects of being the person that you already are. And that's when this whole state really becomes natural and real. That's what it becomes. So there's less, again, your heart can still be on fire. You can still feel very much in love with yourself, with your world, with your possibility. But it feels more natural, it feels more normal. And so over time, as you enter into the full alignment and naturalness of the state, it changes a little bit. It does temper slightly, okay, without really losing anything. The experience changes, okay. The last question from this anonymous student reads like this: why do my imaginal scenes, while I am conscious and not necessarily drowsy, manifest faster than when I do it in sats? Why am I so unsuccessful with sats? Okay, so this is an interesting one. So immediately when someone says something like this, my first thought is what the person is focused on and manifesting while fully conscious, they have very little attachment to. So there's no resistance. It's not being placed on a pedestal. It's very like, oh, sure. Free coffee, best parking spot. I mean, you're not going into sats to manifest a VIP parking spot, right? You're not going into sats to manifest a free coffee. You're going through all of the setup, the state akin to sleep. Here, the Neville and chill community is very much into Shakti mat. So like getting out the Shakti mat, like setting a space, like laying down, getting into this beautiful mind awake, body asleep state. And then imagining, it's like, if you don't know better, you could subconsciously associate all of that preparation with placing the state on a pedestal, which can create imaginary resistance, right? The resistance isn't real, but you can begin to imagine that this state is on a pedestal, okay? Meaning, you can be kind of creating this sense of separation, like, oh, I have to do all of these things to feel that I am this way. Well, that doesn't sound very natural, does it? No, you don't have to do all these things to feel this way, but you can do these things not to feel this way, but as part of honoring the creative power that you are. So when I set a space to go into sats, it's not because I have placed the state that I am exploring while in sats on a pedestal, but rather because I view this as a sacred time. Okay. So it's a time to honor my own creative power. Okay. So, some people go to church and worship an external God. I go into my closet like the Bible tells us to do, and I honor and venerate the creative power of I am. Okay. So there's a difference between doing that and placing whatever I do with that creative power on a pedestal. Okay. So this particular student, my suggestion would be to consider, are you placing the state that you're exploring in sats on a pedestal in any way? Because if so, then you're not actually being it. You're thinking of it and not from it. Okay. There should be no gap. The goal is to be that person and use that access to the subconscious to make it more natural, to experience being that person. Hence why we create a scene, so that we can actually live as that person in our imagination, experiencing something that we would only experience were our wish now fulfilled. Okay. So sometimes what we imagine while we're conscious, just walking throughout our day, are things that are short term. Like I imagine VIP parking spots. I imagine, just things happen, I don't have the show and tell object in front of me, but maybe I can show it on the Neville and Chill live stream later this week. But I went to a concert, and I've been following this band for a couple years now, and they've been live streaming, traveling all over the nation, doing all these shows, and prominently on stage, they have this beautiful display of quartz crystals. And it goes with them to every show, and it's set up right in the center of the stage, and it's illuminated by a laser from above. And it's just beautiful. And they show it on the cameras and on the TVs and all this type of stuff. And so, just as an example, I was at this concert. There's 3 nights of this concert in my city. And at one point during the concert, the front man of the band comes out from behind the back of the stage and picks up a couple of quartz crystals from the display and tosses them into the crowd. And immediately I'm like, I want one of those. One of those quartz crystals is coming home with me. So I didn't go into sats. I didn't excuse myself from the venue and go lay down somewhere. No, I was fully conscious. And all I did was I held the crystal in my hand. I just held it in my hand in my imagination. Okay. It was like thrown to the other part of the crowd. So it was like way over there. I just held it in my hand. I didn't have to think about how it was going to come. I just knew that it was mine, and I held it in my hand just like I would were it mine. And it was the next night that my imaginal act inspired this guy to do it again. And this time he picked up one of the crystals and threw it straight to my partner, who was in the second row. Just literally was like, here you go. Threw it straight to her. And then she placed it in my hand. Imaginal act complete. Okay. Guess how much resistance I had to that coming true? 0. I had 0 resistance. I had 0 attachment. It was not on a pedestal in any way, shape, or form. I had full 100% faith and trust that one of those stage crystals that had traveled around the country being illuminated by this beautiful laser, and crystals hold memory, right? So all the memory of all the beautiful vibes created in all of these spaces for several years, I knew one of those was coming home with me. Okay. So I just simply held it in my hand in my imagination, and then just waited for the universe to catch up to my imaginal act and place it in my hand. And it did. And just to bring this whole discussion full circle, it now sits on the dresser where I see it every morning as a reminder of the power of my imagination. Every single morning I look at it, and it is a physical, tangible, manifested reminder that what I do in my imagination echoes back to me in the 3D. Okay. Our next question for today. I really wish I had the crystal to show you all. I've been talking about it, but I haven't actually shown it on a stream yet. I will do that on Neville and Chill. I will show you all the crystal. Like I said, it's on my dresser. I don't have it here at my desk, but I will show you all just so you can really see what I'm talking about. Okay. Next question for today. This question is from Shelly, and Shelly's asked a couple of really great questions. So thank you, Shelly, for your awesome questions. This one reads like this. How does one cope with the feeling of impatience? How does one cope with the feeling of impatience? What tools are available for developing patience? This is an awesome question. This is an awesome question because it's relatable for everyone and is one of the key skills that we can develop as conscious creators. People who are extraordinarily expressing their creative power definitely exhibit a cultivated skill of patience. Okay, so it's actually very important that we cultivate the skill of patience. Okay, so patience can be found really in the present moment. Okay, so when we ground ourselves, this is the key idea here. When we ground ourselves fully into the present moment, specifically in a state of gratitude. Okay, so in my mind, there is no grounding into the present moment without gratitude. You cannot fully experience being in the present moment without gratitude and appreciation, because this reality really is, when you understand what the present moment is, when you understand what reality is, it evokes a sense of awe and wonder. Really grounding into the present moment is really experiencing God. And with that experience of God, very naturally comes a profound feeling of gratitude and appreciation. Awe, wonder, gratitude, appreciation, God. Okay? Impatience cannot exist in such a place. Impatience is not a frequential match for awe, wonder, gratitude, appreciation, and God. So, what tools are available for developing patience? So, there's a couple. One is to come into the present moment and to ground into a feeling of gratitude and appreciation. There's a meditative practice that we talk about extensively in the channel Mastermind called heart coherence. If you've never heard me talk about that and have no idea what that is, you can YouTube it. There's a lot of people that have made heart coherence meditations. But the heart coherence meditations, generally they're talking, right? Because they're teaching you how to do it. Once you learn how to do it, you don't have to listen to the talking anymore. It literally can become, well, eventually when you get good at it. I've been doing it for 7 years now, so I'm very skilled at the state of heart coherence. I don't really have to think about it anymore. I just know what to do. It becomes automatic. It's an automatic way to regulate the nervous system and to come into the present moment in a state of gratitude and appreciation. And so I've developed the ability to do that simply through practice, a lot of practice, years of daily practice. It becomes an automatic nervous system state that just is on demand. In fact, it becomes, when you practice it to the point where it becomes fully natural, it actually becomes your primary way of being. And then you notice when you're not there. And that gives you the opportunity to correct and get back into it. It carves a groove. And so, like, if you get knocked out of the groove, you notice, you're like, wait a second, somehow I'm not in my heart. Let me pop back into my heart, right? So it becomes your default state of being over time. And in that default state of being, you are exceptionally patient. like legendary patience when you are experiencing awe, wonder, gratitude, appreciation in God, in the magic and beauty of the present moment. Okay, so that's one tool, heart coherence, as a physiological practice of connecting to gratitude and appreciation and aligning your multiple brains in the physical human body. The three primary centers of neurological activity are your brain up in your skull, your heart brain, and your gut brain. And the state of heart coherence aligns those three to really bring you into the present moment. It's one tool. The other tool is to cultivate more silence in your life. Just being out and about in the world, something that I have observed is a lot of people seem to be uncomfortable idling, idling their attention, um, idling their inputs. There's some people I've noticed just driving, around my city who cannot even walk their dogs without being on their phones. Um, you know, it's rare to really see people. It seems like right now, I think we're going through a big awakening about it. But right now, it seems like there's a lot of people that don't feel comfortable in the silence, and so one of the ways that you can develop patience is to learn to slow your brain waves down. When you are constantly seeking stimulation, that cultivates impatience. But when you learn to relax and rest in the silence, that cultivates your creative power, cultivates patience, cultivates an awareness of the present moment, which directly correlates to patience. Okay. So if you're feeling impatience, it's because you feel like you need to be something that you're not, or you need to be somewhere that you're not, or you need to be something or someone or somewhere other than where you are. Okay, that's impatience. None of that is true. None of that is true. When you really believe that you are the I am, how could you be anywhere other than exactly where you're supposed to be? It's impossible, right? Like when you really believe what we talk about here, if that's actually true and really what you believe, how could the present moment be anything other than absolutely perfect? So, learning to connect to that sense of perfection, that feeling of perfection of the present moment, is a powerful tool for developing patience. And patience is one of the qualities of character of someone who is very awake and very enlightened. Okay. An enlightened being is very generally going to be very, very much expressing the quality of character that is patience. Okay. So, something to consider there as well. Let's see. Is there anything else we need to say about this question? No, that feels pretty complete. I think that's pretty complete. So the homework, just to make that very clear, the homework is to practice gratitude and appreciation, to practice becoming aware of the perfection of the present moment, to practice and to actively have experiences of God, which is your own I am awareness, which comes with an experience of perfection because that's what God is, and to cultivate a comfort with the silence and not always require stimulation, right? So taking a break and just learning to just sit quietly. Okay. Some people might find that a little bit odd, but let's remember that 20 years ago, that was quite normal. Really, what's odd and not normal right now is the constant need for stimulation. That's what's young and still looking to be developed into wisdom. Okay. The original state is being quite comfortable with silence and lack of stimulation. Okay. All right. So that wraps up those questions. Those are feeling quite complete. I'm going to take this opportunity to check the chat. I don't always have a chance to do this, but I'm just going to scroll real quick here and see how y'all are doing. It looks like you all are very much on the same page, and that's beautiful. Yes. Okay, beautiful. Looks like you all are doing great. So I love that. Excellent. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and bring in members of the Zoom room and get the input from the mastermind here. So 1 second, I add that. Okay, Orlena, I think we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, those are
Hello.
great questions.
Yes.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
So for people that are introverted or extroverted, do they still need like silence and just like being by themselves, especially for people that are extroverted? If they get their stimulation from, for being extroverted. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Mhm.
It is the ability to be comfort in silence and to learn to idle. Idle meaning like we're not seeking stimulation, we're not actively plugging in things from the senses, like learning to calm and go within. That is a quality of character that is going to serve us very well
Okay.
for our entire lives. Okay, so
Okay.
regardless of how we're wired, I
Mhm.
think everyone will benefit tremendously from cultivating that skill.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was my question.
Excellent question, Orlena.
Mhm.
Anyone else in the Zoom room have any comments or contributions? Andrea, hello.
You can always depend on me and Orlana.
I'm so grateful. Yes. Please go ahead.
I'm glad you're here, Orlana. So I just wanted to acknowledge what you said about heart math. I think I probably got certified about the same time you did, around in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And what a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Heart math, I mean, once you start practicing it and it becomes your way of life, it just elevates like your level of the word's not resilience is what I want to say.
Resilient.
Resilience and overall coherence in life, and it's just an amazing thing. And I'm part of the community of practice leadership team in Heart Math, and so I'm getting a significant discount for the upcoming conference in April. And if any of you love Joe Dispenza and Jack Canfield from Chicken Soup, that whole series, Chicken Soup for the Soul. It's going to be an excellent conference, but even without going there, just like Josiah was saying, the Heart Math YouTube videos are so good and it's just so informative and life-changing. So highly recommend it. I think with all of us being, mystics and into metaphysics, Heart Math is definitely something that will add to your practice.
Excellent. Okay, I see we have a couple of hands up. This is also a good time to remind Mastermind members that we are doing a Mastermind activity after this stream. So go ahead and find that Zoom link and hop in. We'll be continuing after this stream with the members of the Mastermind. Okay, Jamie, I see your hand is up. Go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I'm not able to come on camera.
It's all good. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, the phrase that you used, the cooking time, is also a phrase that one of my other, the teachers, I've had so many great ones, but she uses that exact phrase, the cooking time. And she says the cooking time can feel like there's nothing going on.
Mhm.
It can feel like you are moving through sludge. It can feel like you are stuck. And that is the time to continue to exercise that belief of the wish fulfilled. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it comes. So that phrase that you used reminded me of what the wisdom that she had shared was that, you can just feel like you're not going anywhere.
Mhm.
And she says that is the time when the unseen nature of life is putting together the moving components. And it reminds me of Neville's phrase, like, my father has ways you know not of.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a pretty awesome session and a great reminder that sometimes, when nothing seems to be going on in the 3D, we're just in the cooking time.
Mhm. Let it cook.
Yeah.
It will be delicious. Just got to let it cook.
Let it cook.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Is that Roxy? Roxy, is that your? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year.
I have a question, if pointers, and it goes along with one of the questions that was asked. I realized this year when I was making, what you would like to accomplish for the year and those things, and it seemed like the same thing was going to be on the list from all the previous years. And I made a conscious decision in that moment, like Spirit said, stop, don't put them on the list. How about if we didn't put these on the list, what would be on the list? And I realized that with all the issues like, stay the kids asleep, coming out of it, feel like, what do I do now? Is it really happening? I had to put the thing was that had to go on the list was my personal power of being. This is my desire. What I'm desiring this year is understanding and fully embodying my personal power. Whatever comes out of that comes out of that. If it means the things that I actually wanted happen, but nothing would feel more amazing to me than feeling the power of myself. So all this learning that I've been learning and adding more learning to it would not have helped. Learning more techniques, it would still lead to the same place of having those questions. What happens now? How do I speed this up? How do I not be impatient? Because and it's been propelling pretty fast. Once you are tapped more into the being that my desire is to be, you become the person who does. And I don't know if anyone else is facing that challenge and feel like, what is the use of this? Listen to Neville for years and years and years and still not feeling like everybody else is getting it but me. That probably, I don't know, just is to take away those things that we're designed to manifest and put at the top of the manifestation list the person that we're designed to be. So I don't know if you have any tips if someone is not doing things, because I know we have to do an imaginal act. How would you go about that if you are the thing
Yes.
you're desired to be?
Yes. Great call out there. It kind of sounds like this is like a return to first principles. It's like, instead of focusing on things on the outside, let me focus on being the person who is and who has, right? Which is being the person that I desire to be and making that the chief definite aim, to really exist in that state and show up that way in all of the circumstances of life, and like really focus on that. There's something that is very clarifying about approaching it this way, because then you really begin to rather than being dependent on certain things emerging in the mirrors, you're really now living from this. Right? So this is something that you just are, and now you get to practice every single day being that person. So I think you're very much exactly where you need to be with this, Roxy. And I think this is a powerful acceleration to really focus on this, the first principle of revealing your creative power in the way that you've described. It's very good. Andrea, did you have something to add to that? I noticed you came back. You are muted though, Andrea. Andrea, can you unmute? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
What helped me with that was like going back to the biblical principle of seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all else would be added to you.
100%.
And so when I stopped trying to do things and just started focusing on being in alignment with the Holy Spirit and being at one with the Holy Spirit, righteousness and oneness with God, that helped me a lot. So I think I heard you say before that you came from a religious background too, but that oneness, to hit that oneness and all else being added onto that. You don't have to worry about the little things. You can just know that they're coming once you're in alignment.
I think that really summarizes it. How beautiful that the ancient mystics gave us that as a first principle. Yeah, seek ye first. I mean, that's pretty clear. And all these things will be added unto you. Seek ye first that state of supreme alignment with our own inner creative power, and all these things will be added. Beautiful. I saw, Bill, you had your camera on there for a second. Did you have something you would like to add as well?
I think Andrea pretty much summed it up.
Okay. Yep.
I'll take it in my way.
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
If you wish for patience, guess what? Here comes a whole bunch of stuff that's going to teach it to you. But Andrea said it perfect. Everybody out.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I laugh at that, Bill, because I remember hearing a story about that a long time ago. It was like the young man praying with the church leader, and the church leader's like, "What do you want?" And he's like, "Oh, I would like more patience." And so the church leader's like, "Bring this young man trials and tribulations." And he's like, wait, no, I asked for patience. And he's like, "What do you think is going to teach you patience?" Okay, so that's like a funny way of relating to it, but really, rather than asking to being taught patience, let's begin to embody patience. I am patience.
Exactly.
Yes.
I am.
We have the power to do that.
All that has to be in basically first principle.
The first principle. Indeed. Awesome. Thank you for that. Everybody in the Zoom room, I appreciate your contributions there. Okay, so we're going to continue in the Zoom room in just a moment. So hang tight, everybody. In the Mastermind, back to YouTube. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me for this live, and for everyone that's watching the recording. These are some really good questions, and I love that we get to go deeper into the practices every week through this process of Sunday Mystery School. If you're interested in joining the Mastermind, it's very simple. You just click join and choose the Mastermind level, and you'll have access to the Zoom room as well as all the Mastermind activities that we're doing together. There's a bunch of them. We have some really good times, some great explorations. So that's an opportunity to engage further, should you like to do so. I'm really thinking about how I want to show you all that object, that crystal that I manifested. So I'm very much looking forward to Neville and Chill, where I'll be able to show it to you all, and we'll talk a little bit about it. So that's the next thing we have going on in the space will be Neville and Chill, 8 p.m. live on YouTube, 8 p.m. on Tuesday, live on YouTube. There we go. And I will look forward to seeing you all then. Until next time, imagine wisely, my friends, and I will see you all in the next.